Hello everyone and welcome to another photo book critique. This time I will be critiquing Kato Rena's first photo book, and from the previews I've seen, I can see that this will not be your ordinary photo book. There will be a lot of stuff that I probably can't show on YouTube. But as you can see, I haven't opened my copy yet. So let's go ahead and open this and I'll be able to give you a full critique. But before that, let's talk about who the photographer is. So Nakamura Kazutaka is actually a photographer who has shot many 48 and 46 idols. There's been Kojima Haruna's Dosuru, there's been My Magazine, there's been Watanabe Mayu's photo book, and Shiraishi Mai's Passport. So plenty of really good photo books. And hopefully this one doesn't disappoint in the line of great photo books. So plenty of expectations for this one. So let's go ahead and open it and I'll be able to tell you how it is. So just looking at this photo book, I can already tell you that my suspicions were correct, and a lot of this stuff I won't be able to show you, so hopefully you pick it up, but I will try my best to show you. Maybe Patreon people might get a little bit more access. But the style of this photographer really shows in this photo book. There's a lot of examples that actually related to Passport more than it did of the other ones. There has been a lot of posing aspects from Mayu's photo book and a lot of composition work from Passport. So it's really interesting to see the combination of the two with Kato Rena. Now, I do have one big negative thing with this, so you have to wait till the end to find out what that big negative is that I have with this photo book. So without further ado, let's start off with this front cover. Now, this front cover, sharp where it needs to be, sharp right here, everywhere else here, boring, making it nice and soft. Focus right on her face. You get distracted by nothing else in the background. Fingers are fine, everything's looking fine posing wise, making a cute face. Don't really like the duck lips, but it's a little bit more Kato Rena style, so it's okay in this case. And there's a lot of attention to detail. I mean, just look at the hair, how it's like the fun little twisted, a little bit innocent style, with especially like the front bangs coming in forward, but just a couple of them. So kind of having that messy hair, but yet it's designed to be messy. And looking at the back, we can see a little bit more of the style of what is going to be inside the photo book. And this one is playing on like sexy / cute. So cute's more on the like innocent side. So we'll see more of this theme inside as we move deeper. But I feel like these two kind of give the image of what the photo book is going to be about. It is again going to be about her. And we see two different sides of her in this photo book, although I wish the middle section of this photo book was represented better instead of this photo. I feel like it would have been a little bit stronger that way, maybe drawn a little bit more attention, but I can see how people want this cute Renachi photo in the front and want to get it. And going to the first page is something I really like, and it's probably super expensive to print. It's this right here. It's actually having the whole page right here. Like, look, there's no double page, there's no white page, there's no page inserts. This is like an official photo book that you see more commonly, especially in the United States, where there's no cover and it's just straight up photo book. Like I always say, start off with a strong image. And I think this one is fairly strong, especially for what the theme of the photo book is. If you didn't know what the theme was from the back of the photo book, then this will definitely give you the theme. Here, there's a lot of implication. There's the whole circle kind of peeping through, a little bit voyeuristic, and her just laying down. So it is giving that sort of appeal, which I see a lot in the photo book, both openly and sort of hidden. But I do think this is a strong image to start off this photo book with this theme. Moving on, we move into these, and we'll see this style a lot. This is one of the negatives I have with this photo book. It's a little bit too out there. Like they're making it too obvious. So I feel like sometimes subtlety can be a little bit better. We've seen in other photo books how subtlety actually is better than laying it on out there. And the reason why I say that is if you see where my hand is covering, that's a big out there moment. And transitioning to this, it's like, yeah, we've noticed it here and we're still mentioning it over here, kind of making it more obvious than it should be. Although I will have to mention that the lighting in this is actually really good on her face, especially with the black hair and really dark eyes that she has, and with the surrounding eyeshadow. I feel like this works out really, really good, and the contrast in this is very nice. And next we have a set of almost around the same time frame, and it's her with her dress unzipped from the back, and then here we can see all back. And as I said before, I forgot whose photo book. I think it might have been Eto Misa's photo book, where you can still see the marks of the straps. And I think in some cases that might work, but I think in this case it would have been better if the mark wasn't there, because then it kind of shows like, oh, I've been waiting for you, unzip, and then it shows this. With this one, it kind of seems like, all right, let me take it off, and then let me put the dress on, take it off, so I could take a picture in it. I think it would have been better if those marks weren't there. You could argue that those marks are better, kind of showing like it was last minute, because again, this is sort of the voyeuristic feel to it. And move on to this one. Now, I like the posing a little bit more in the legs, but I think in the face and in the lights in general, I think the other one was better because there was more shadow to the face, adding a little bit more drama. In this one, you can kind of see everything and it's all a little bit too flat. Then we move on to a compare and contrast image, which is with these two photos right here. And this one right here, concentrating on the eyes. Very dark, contrasty image with her arm in front of her mouth, so you can fully concentrate on her eyes even more. I think if her arm was a little bit higher, it'd be a little bit distracting from the nose. Having it like that would be a little bit more distracting. You can focus more on the nose shape than on the eyes. In this case, there's the nose to accentuate the eyes. And in contrast, we have over here a cat statue, and I guess it's sort of concentrating on the eyes as well, kind of having the contrast and similarities of both images. But I think this image is really strong. Don't know how I feel about this crop over here, but I do like the fact that it's solely focused on the eyes without it being a really close-up of the eyes, which some other photo books do. Then we move on to this image right here, and this image is not my favorite. It's not only because of the light. I think it might be her expression that's here. I feel like it's a little bit too forced. Like it isn't relaxed enough. I feel like going like this is, I think it's all in the hands. The hands are too tough in this one. Like if she went like this, it would be a little bit better than going like this. With more shadow, like as you can see in my hand, there's more shadow than there is on hers, adding a little bit more thinness to the hand. But in this one, it seems kind of bulky, making it look a little bit stronger and not making it look as soft as it can be, so making her look a little bit forced. And I think especially with this thumb right here, it being separated from the hand makes it look even bigger, especially pushed up against the strap. Then we have this image where it's under the bed. We see some detail over here, but over here it kind of goes into shadow. And we see it's fully about the face and her actually being under the covers. Lighting is not the best, which doesn't really help accentuate anything. You can see that the shadow barely appears on the nose, and it's right here, kind of making it look a little bit more flat lighting and not in the best way. Then move on to the lights behind the model, kind of making them a little bit more silhouette-like. I think the best example of this I've seen has actually been in a different photo book. It has been in Kita Hararia's photo book. I think hers is a very good example of how it should be done. In this one, I like this sort of posing right here. It's a little bit forced with the arms up. It's a little bit too like stereotypical. But I do like the fact that they're kind of doing like the highlights all around, and since this is a big window, it's a very soft light, so it helps give a little bit more definition. And especially you can tell like over here how it goes into lights, then shadow, then lights and shadow again. That helps add that dimension in there. Contrasting with this one is a little bit different because it's mostly like the flat of the back, so you don't get so much wrap around, and this one kind of looks like it just goes into shadow. Not sort of the best for helping give more definition to the body. Now these images I do in fact like. I wish there weren't so many of them. I'd kind of be okay with this one and this one right here. I can't see the reasoning for having multiple of them, but again, I feel like 4 is a little bit much. I feel like it's at the point where it's needing a lot more or it needs less. If they want to make a collage style, kind of making it like a contact sheets, then that's cool. But then like this, it kind of feels like, we have 3 good ones, but we want to add this one at the end, so let's just add all 4 of them. I feel like these 2 are strong enough by themselves, and especially with this one being wide and this one being tighter, I feel like it's a good enough excuse to put just them 2. And this one, make a note, lighting is coming from the back. That's like, this is probably around like 2 p.m. and the light is coming from back there. So it gives a little bit more of a highlight on the arms and on the head, causing the face to be in shadow because she's turning away from the light. And this image right here, we can see a lot of inspiration from Shiraishi Mai's photo book. As you can see, the tones are a little bit muted, just a tad bit magenta, and you can see those darks are there, but the shadows are lifted up just a tad, just so everything doesn't go straight to black. Overall, a very nice look, especially for outside. Comparing it to this one, you can really see the difference, and it makes it look like she's in a different environment here, kind of giving a nice transition. You can't argue that both of these white balances are so off that it looks a little distracting, and I can't agree with that. Seeing this one being pure white and this one, all the white stuff being a little bit more brown or orange, kind of does throw it off a little, but I feel like this is a different mood to this one, and I think having especially the expression there really helps define the difference between these two. And here would be an example where I would say it does hurt that there's two different color temperatures, because there's white borders over here definitely defining that this is white and showing that the white letters are there, showing that the white signs are there, and showing her walking in with this red. Contrasting with this one that's a little bit more to the setting of the warm tone to it. So this one being a little bit more moody, but this one's still moody. So I feel like having both moody ones next to each other with different white balances, different settings, is a little bit distracting. Maybe having it in the order of 1, 2, 3, then 4 with both of the warm images on the same pages, then I feel like it would have been a little bit more like you're turning the page and bam, you get a brand new color profile to the next pages. But I did say this pose right here is really nice, and I really like the detail of having the headphones right here on the actual neck, and her flowing it, the dress, kind of making it look like it's in motion, while the hand isn't the most distracting thing, but I do like that everything really fits well with this black theme, especially with these black boots, just walking around in this environment. I feel like it really works well with the warmness of the image. This image right here, I actually really like. This is sort of fashion-y image, more than like a beauty or about the person. This one's a little bit more fashionable, especially towards the boots. I feel like this could perfectly advertise the boots. And this one's a little bit more about mood and style than it is about character of the person. And then going to this one's a little bit too cluttered for me. While this one, you get a little bit of a break over here from all of these distracting elements. In this one, there is absolutely no break for your eyes to go anywhere. The only place I can see would be like her legs, or maybe like this black space over here, but I feel like the tearing is a little bit too distracting. Having it so complicated in here is definitely a style. It isn't my personal favorites. Maybe if it was a little bit wider and we saw a little bit more of the environment, maybe I would have liked it a little bit more, but I can see where the photographer was going, and I can't see how this can be a good image. Now, this image right here definitely feels voyeuristic, and it's honestly not my favorite because it feels like it was there for no reason at all. There doesn't look like there's a purpose at all, especially comparing to the next one where it seems like it's a little bit more like portrait-y. This one just feels like, okay, you know, it's my boyfriend with the camera, we're messing around kind of thing. And going with the flow, especially from like these fashion-y images from before, I feel like going to this is sort of like all of a sudden, oh, we're in this zone now? Where did that come from? Then we see this image right here with her walking next to the bridge, you know, the famous bridge. And I feel like this one probably would have been cool in the warm tone. I imagine the photographer tried both ways with the warm and with this one and stuck with this one. I would definitely want to see how the warm one looked for this one, because I can't see the warmness working with this image. This image right here being a little bit too soft. As you can see, the focus is on her ear instead of her face. This is the same scenario as the front cover. So front cover nailed the sharpness right on tack. And on this one, it's a little bit back, and especially comparing to this really sharp image, it's definitely noticeable in this one. Then we have these series of images. I feel like, again, it was like I can't decide between them. I personally like these three. This one I'm not too fond of. It seems kind of like, all right, now jump and I'll take a picture. That sort of mood. And this one is sort of the same idea, but it doesn't really say much, and the arm being extended towards the camera is not the most appealing thing, making her arm look kind of short. But I do like the posing in this one. I kind of wish she wasn't wearing those flip-flops and was over here barefoot the same way. And next we move to this image, and I really like this image because if you look, the light is really nice. Like, you can see that this might be a huge window because the light wraps all the way around her face and even causes like a little bit of shadow over here. But it's so much light that it actually fills everything in very nicely, but still has enough shadow to add some definition to it. So this is a really nice light, and I really like the pose in this one. It's still a little bit curvy with a little bit of subtleness with the hand and with the head turning towards the camera. Really nice. Next we move to this image right here, and the lighting here is really nice. It's a little bit blue for my taste, especially comparing to the whiteness over here. But I do like the posing in this one. Hand, it's okay. Hand in this one is a little bit better, and nothing's too coming forward. This hand, you can see it is coming forward from the side, so it's a little bit better, but it does look a little bit wide thanks to that foreshortening I talked about earlier. This one right here is a much nicer version than the one we've seen before. This one is full of light. There's a smile. It's all white over here, kind of giving the sense of purity, and this is a really nice image, especially with the smile that she has and everything going on. I feel like this all works together and is a really nice image of Kato Rena. Even moving to this image right here, this one's a little bit more of the photographer being down and her being up, but I feel like in this case, it's actually a really nice, cute portrait of her, and usually from below, it makes the woman look a little bit more like taller and more bigger, but I think in this case, it actually works out really well. It might be the fact that she's actually crouching down, and you can see over here her legs are standing up and kind of coming to your level and being cute. It sort of gives off that vibe, and especially with everything being white over here, a little bit of green doesn't really hurt that much. I think it adds a little bit of distraction in your eye. That way you could relax a little bit from all the white. So it isn't horrible. I could do with it or without it, but the overall feel of this image is really nice. This image, on the other hand, her turned around, it blurry, not the best. If she was turned around facing us with that fake guitar, then I think it would have been a stronger image. Maybe just raise your shutter speed by 2 clicks. This image right here is actually really nice. I really like the lighting on this image. Everything coming from the right side of us, and it's just causing really nice shadows over here, kind of a loop style. It's not Rembrandt because it's not a closed shadow. It's a loop, so it's right here. And this image right here is really nice. I especially like how the shadows play on her forehead. They're very harsh shadows, as you can see, because clearly you can see the hair, but it's soft enough where over here you can see that it sort of fades into darkness, and even on the nose right here it's kind of sharp, but then right under it you can see it's very soft. So it's a very nice light, and especially where they place her according to the light is very nice, because as you can see, she's not flat with the actual bathtub, she's to the side. So this is meaningful of where she was posed according to the light. And the hand over here is nice with the arm. You can see right here that she's not resting her head on her arm. If she does, it looks squished. But right here, she's going like this, very softly, and then just pressing her fingers in, kind of giving more of a soft and not so distracting hand placement. And don't even get me started about those shoulders. As you can see, they're displaced. Having them even would make it look too broad, but having them right here a little bit different, having this one in front, making the bigger one in front, and this one over here, making it look smaller, making it look like she has more shape to her, even though we don't see anything from down here. Really nice posing, really nice lighting. Top contender for my favorite photo. Now, I've had to skip a couple of swimsuit images, but I have to say this one right here is definitely one of my top picks for swimsuit photos that I've seen in photo books. This one says a lot about Kato Rena, and I think that smile and the pose and the whole atmosphere around the photo is really nice. This lifestyle type image is much stronger than a regular, let's say, of her just posing with her arms up in the air. And especially the warm light coming across it makes it look a little bit more sunsetty, and with the hats giving a little bit more character, adding a little bit more texture into the image, with her smile and the pose and everything being a little bit more relaxed, I feel like all this just goes together for a really nice lifestyle portrait image of Kato Rena. Then move on to these night images, which he hasn't done in Mayu's or in Shiraishi's. So this one is a little bit different, and especially in Fukuoka Mai, it isn't there. So this one being outside is a little bit different than what it usually does, at least from what I've seen. So let's go ahead and look at these. This one, again, not the best lighting. This is probably under a lamppost. Maybe she was tilting her head a little bit higher, maybe tilting it a little bit more. Having a little bit more light on her instead of just on her nose would have helped a little bit, but I'm not in this scenario, so I can't exactly say how that light post was according to everything else that was lit. This right here I actually like. It's a little bit blurry. You can tell, especially in the face, but I like the facial expression so much with the flow of the dress and even this foot right here being picked up that I think I can excuse it. Only thing is right here, this is distracting because this sort of leads me over here. Maybe that's why they added the white borders so this wasn't so distracting, because I feel like if there were no white borders, this would be way more distracting. This image right here, I don't really like on-camera flash lighting like this. I don't feel like this one was the best. This is taking a picture at a low shutter speed in order to get more ambient light, which causes these people in the background to be blurry and her being still since the flash is being taken. So it's a little technical, but whenever you take a picture, the flash is there. It's a flash of light, so the sensor of the camera captures that, and if your shutter speed is low, it starts capturing a little bit more than that. So in this case, you can see there's a little bit more light around her instead of being in total darkness. And we can see the people are blurry in the background since it is a lower shutter speed. Hopefully I explained that okay. It's a little bit technical. This image right here, contender for my favorite photo of this photo book. Really, really nice lighting and really nice posing, really nice attention to detail in this one. Especially with that red, and coming in from this one, going into this one, I feel like it's a really nice transition. Obviously you can read what it says right there. So basically going with the theme of the photo book, and not a lot of photos that I've shown have really been around this theme, but a lot of them have been suggesting around that, which I can't really show on YouTube. But back to this photo. The red lighting is really nice. I really like the colored light look in some images. And I think this one does it really well, especially with all the shadows being over here. And her being so close, it's very contrasty. And I think everything works out really, really well with the posing, with the hair and everything, giving a lot of texture. It's a really good image. I guess I'll talk about this scenario a little. I have no idea where this is inside. You can see there's a heart inside with curtains. But this whole setup was not my favorite. I feel like it was a little bit too done up without a lot of execution. Again, using that red light, but I feel like the red light falls a little flat in this one. Maybe because it's all around over here. Meanwhile, in this one, it's mainly focused on her with some blacks over here. I feel like this image uses the red more, but I feel like there's a little bit too much work on the skin over here, so be a little bit more careful about that. I can see that there's a little bit more texture over here, but right here there's like no texture at all, so I'd keep an eye out for that. This image right here I really don't like. The lighting in this one falls flat. As you can see, her face is in shadow while everything else is lit up. Not my favorite image of the photo book. Again, it's this done up look, but not a lot of execution towards it. It's like this is probably the closest, but this is sort of on-camera flash again. It sort of gives details, as you can see. You can see the chest bones over here. You can see a little bit of jaw work right here, but we see none of her cheeks. I feel like she has a lot of cheeks to show. Then we have more playing around with different wardrobes. This one is not the best. This amp right here is distracting with this chair, and that's thanks to the flash that's too close to them. As you can see, these are way brighter than say for this. And it's a really flat lighting, and this truly looks like on-camera flash, like a pop-up flash. Meanwhile, this image over here, the light is a little bit to the side, and I feel like this image could have been a little bit more interesting if the light source was bigger. Because in this one, it's a little bit too sharp, and I feel like for this style, a softer one would have worked out much better. But that's not denying the fact that the posing is really nice, as well as having a coverage on her face. Then we move into a little bit more dangerous images, and as you can see over here, you can see the light is coming from behind her, and that's because the photographer is standing in front of her with the flash going towards her, and it's just reflecting off of the mirror. So there's no small little lights behind her. It is actually coming from the photographer's flash, which, as you can see, is a little bit off to the side coming from over here. It might have been on a bracket on top of the camera, or it might have been just to the side of him. But you can see there's a lot of stuff going around in this image. We got this distracting blanket over here. We got a little bit too sharp environments, but that's thanks to the flash. And we got a lot of this distracting elements right here. This element right here I feel like is a little bit too distracting. Going into the posing, this posing is very curve shaped. It's mostly defined on that and defined on hiding and also showing at the same time. I mean, obviously with a lot of these, there are cover-ups that are in place in order for any accident to happen. And with this one, with the legs being crossed, the arms being crossed, you can see there's definitely a motive for this. Here we have the back cover, and I think this is exactly the same. Yeah, that's exactly the same. And I feel like the light is a little bit too bright in this one, so I'm glad for the final one it's darkened just a tad bit. This right here I don't like. The shadow with the wideness of it with this distracting door doesn't really play along well with each other. Then I move to this image right here, and what she's wearing really helps accentuate her, but I don't know if it accentuates it in the way that she wants to. I know some girls are cautious of their hips and how wide they are, and I feel like what she's wearing right here really helps accentuate those hips. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, I'm just saying some people don't like it. But I think with her it works out fine because we've seen it otherwise in this photo book, and I feel like she's okay with it. So as long as she's okay with these images, I'm okay with these images. And seeing as what she's wearing over here, it seems like there is definitely a purpose to accentuate the hips. The lighting over here is actually fairly interesting because we have the coolness over here and we have the warmness from the artificial lighting. And I actually like that comparison between cool and warm in the same image. If it's two other ones, it could be distracting, but in the same image, it actually adds a nice little element, a little bit of difference between the two light sources. Her face though is not the best in posing. It's kind of like stand there and don't smile kind of pose. And it's sort of flat on. I can see this working in different scenarios with the flat on pose, but I feel like for this one, her being towards the warm lights and the cool lights coming in back of her could have worked, or the other way around. Then move to another one of my favorite images. This one looks very studio-like, and again, it's more bright in this area than it is in her face. And I think that's helped to accentuate the fact that her hair is covering herself. Obviously that's extensions, but I feel like this image right here does say a lot. I don't know how I feel about the elbows pointing straight towards the camera, but it's not the biggest distracting thing. As we can see over here, it's a little bit better because the arms are extended more. Instead of being straight towards the camera, they're a little bit extended more. So I feel like the arm is better in this one, but I do like the whole feel of this one, especially without the white borders. I feel like it's much stronger. This one right here, I don't really like. Again, there's no light on her face. It's all right here in the middle, and that doesn't really help accentuate anything because really the whole point of this image is in this area and should be in this area as well. And in this case, I'm seeing more of this area, and especially with the divide being here, it doesn't really help too much. And same thing for this one, I'll cover up the bottom because YouTube probably won't let me upload it otherwise. In this case, it's legs open again, but laying down, and I feel like it's just not tasteful. I feel like it's a little bit like, again, that voyeuristic feel to it, where I'm looking at someone's private collection of images instead of looking at this person's and it being a little bit styled more. It feels a little bit too like someone could do it with someone else that isn't a photographer. And then over here, a lot of symbology with her leaving it behind. I wish the next photo was a little bit stronger, with especially with this image, maybe still being on the bed. But we moved to another shower as we've seen before, and with this one having a weird green tint to it. It's like she's in the Matrix or something. But in this one with the hair being completely down, and with this one being a little bit more styled in this case, I do like this one. Maybe she was turned just a tad bit more so the shoulder covers a little bit more, would have been a little useful, but I feel like I'm still okay with it. And this one right here, the face doesn't actually distract too much. And then kind of like holding it like this in this case doesn't really make it look as voyeuristic as it should be. Or even worse, like this, then it's something else. And we move to the final image, which is with the back page, which is really nice. And it's a close-up of her. Honestly, this doesn't really look like her. And I think it's because the rest of her eye is covered up, so I can't really tell it's her. And there's much more definition on her bottom lip, so it does look a little bit like someone else. And plus, since the lighting is a little bit more to the side, as you can see, it's very harsh lighting. Comparatively to the rest that we've seen, it's a little bit different. So ending on this one might not be the strongest. I feel like it might have been stronger to end on a recent one. This one would have worked out a little bit better than this one, and then finishing it off with this again. or maybe having like the same theme. I feel like that wouldn't be too bad, having it like the pink theme and then ending on pink theme, kind of making it like, oh, this whole section right here is pink. So that does it for the photo book critique. There are 2 photos that I talked about on Patreon, which I liked a lot, but I probably can't put on YouTube, so go ahead and check out the Patreon for that. You can see it down in the link below. And generally what I thought about the photo book was, it's a nice photo book for the photographer that's actually there. I feel like it's very his style, especially some editing elements that were in there, some shooting styles that were in there. Though I feel like a lot of this was there for no reason. With other photo books, sure, we get this, how they're modeling for the photo, but I feel like for this one, it was just a little bit too voyeuristic for me, to the point where it felt unnecessary and it felt repetitive, to the point where it felt a little bit like redundant to have so much of it. Maybe if he sprinkled it in like he did with the other photo books that he's shot, then I feel like it would have been much stronger, especially extending the middle section where it's a little bit more fashiony. I feel like having those with these type of images sprinkled in throughout would have been the better route, because having really solid sections where it's plainly just like, hey, here are my legs open, is not the best for me. I feel like it hits over that limit where it should be a little bit too much, to the point where it's not classy in some images. So if you have the photo book, go ahead and let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know if you share the same opinions or have different ones. Again, what I say is not hard fact. This is an opinion from me, from my perspective, and what I've learned through life and learned through my career. So let me know what you think down below about the photo book, and let me know what your favorite photo book is. If you have it with you, you can say, oh, hey, it's, you know, around these images. This scenario was my favorite. I'd really be interested to see what you think about this, because I feel like the images in here were really good. I just feel like the execution of some of the principles were a little bit tough to swallow for this photo book. So who do I recommend this photo book to? Kato Rena fans should definitely pick it up. And I feel like if you like idle photo books that are a little bit too close to the edge, then you'll really, really like this photo book. If you're looking for a photo book where it could be a coffee table photo book, not the best. If you want to show it to your friends, or maybe show it to other people who do photography, maybe not the best. Maybe you just have select images in here. Like if you have the photo book, you can just show them those images. I feel like that'd be good, but having the whole photo book and letting them see through it would seem a little bit too risque. So again, you can let me know what you think about it down below. But if you want to check it out or are curious about it, I definitely recommend picking it up. You can go to amazon.co.jp or other websites that you can go ahead and ship from Japan. So again, like the video. You can subscribe to see more photo book critiques. I've done other photo book critiques as well as the ones that I've talked about before in the beginning. And you can go ahead and leave a comment. The more you interact with this video, the more views it will be able to get, because it reaches more people, because YouTube sees that people are interacting with it. So that means comment, like, and share this video. So that does it for this photo book critique. You can go ahead and look forward to the next one, again, by subscribing. Even hitting that bell will help you. And as I say every single time, thank you all for watching.